To welcome you all here today for what is one of my favorite events. I'm the Dean of the Whiting School of Engineering, and coming here to award a chair, in this case the John C. Malone Associate Professorship in the installation of Mark Dredze in that chair, is a great pleasure. I would like to thank all of the students, faculty, and staff that are joining us, and especially Provost Kumar and Dr. Jerry Krill from the Applied Physics Lab, both of whom will be speaking in a few moments. I'd also like to extend a special welcome to Mark's wife, Chava, and his daughter, Gila, for being with us as well. This afternoon, we are both recognizing and celebrating two extraordinary individuals who have made and will continue to make an incredible mark on engineering and engineering in healthcare. The first is Mark Dredze, whose accomplishments make earning this appointment very much deserved. And the second is John Malone, whose generosity has established a cohort of faculty set on changing the field of healthcare through collaboration between engineering and medicine. And although he's not here today, I do want to recognize the critical investment that Dr. Malone is making in the future of our school and in our ability to effect positive change in the world by supporting the Malone Center for Engineering and Healthcare and allowing us to encourage the work of our most promising faculty like Mark. Dr. Malone received his master's degree from Johns Hopkins in Industrial Management in 1964 and his PhD in Operations Research in 1969. His business expertise and analytical abilities, proven through his doctoral research here at Hopkins, enabled him to create large enterprises in the media and communication fields. He is chairman of the Liberty Media Corporation, one of the largest mass media companies in the world. Beyond his business success, Dr. Malone's philanthropy continues to make important advances in our everyday lives here at Hopkins and beyond Hopkins. The Malone Professorships and the Malone Center for Engineering and Healthcare recognize the tremendous potential that exists at the intersection of engineering and healthcare, engineering and medicine. And what makes the Malone Professorships and those that are appointed this title so unique and so meaningful is that they give us the opportunity to look beyond the boundaries of our respective fields, sparking innovation and support across our institution. And that is particularly true with this appointment, because Mark is appointed both in the Whiting School of Engineering and in the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, and you'll be hearing more about that as well. And so really a remarkable convergence of organizations and people. So officially, I am honored to be here today to recognize the work of Mark Dredze through the Malone Associate Professorship. Congratulations, Mark. And so it is my distinct honor to present the John C. Malone Associate Professorship to Provost Sunil Kumar. Sunil.
Thank you, Ed. So let me read the formal piece of business today. It's a great pleasure for me to accept the John C. Malone Associate Professorship on behalf of the Johns Hopkins University. With that, I'm done. In particular, you might ask yourself, why do we have something as arrogant as the acceptance of a professorship? After all, we know the donor. Nobody who has a PhD in OR is suspect. In case you didn't figure that out, I have a PhD in OR myself. But it's not really about the donor or accepting the chair. In my mind, it is, of course, to recognize Mark for past achievement, but it is really about imbuing him with a deep and abiding sense of guilt. This is a relatively rare occurrence at Hopkins. In fact, in our peer class, this is rarer at Hopkins than at any of our peers. We have fewer chairs. We get them less frequently. We've been trying very hard to use them. So this is like you're getting a gift from your nana, right? So this is a extraordinarily valuable thing for the university because of the scarcity of such chairs. And so, of course, we know you're the right person, not because of what you've done, but what you're about to do, especially now that I hope you feel suitably guilty. And so, on a more serious note, as Ed pointed out, it is rare that we find a faculty member who embodies this idea of one university. You know, I saw in your resume everything from machine learning to tobacco control, and that is an impressively broad resume, connects various parts of the university, and so I couldn't be happier that it is you that I'm trying to guilt into more performance, you know. So with that, it is my pleasure to ask Jerry Krill, the Chief Technology Officer of the Applied Physics Lab, to come up and say something with content. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. So, as the CTO, it's really my distinct pleasure to represent APL in congratulating you for your appointment as the John C. Malone Associate Professor. Mark is engaged in some really key research at APL, and really, as Dr. Kumar pointed out, this really he embodies the spirit of one university. We at APL first learned of Dr. Dredze from his excellent research publications on natural language processing. And we also learned of his work at the Johns Hopkins Human Language Technology Center of Excellence. And so we were excited for the opportunity that we could collaborate with him. I'm going to briefly mention a couple areas of research that he's contributed in a major way towards with APL. The first area is for our internal research grants program called Propulsion Grants, which really seeks out the bold, exploratory solutions. And one of the most imaginative ones we found so far is one that Mark is involved with. It's called Crystal Cube, in context of the crystal ball predicting the future. The research team is exploring how learning algorithms applied to social media messages might be used to predict impending human events, such as violent demonstrations or attacks on civilians, certainly germane in this era. The need for such a conflict prediction capability was suggested as recently as October 15th in the journal Nature. Mark leads the social media analytics research that is a key aspect of the grant. And the research results to date indicate the promise of data analytics and deep learning, potentially predicting events with sufficient fidelity and in enough time to enable peaceful interventions and preemptions when such situations erupt. The second area is part of APL's partnership with both the Whiting School and Johns Hopkins Medicine. Dr. Dredze has been a key contributor in the development of advanced natural language processing capabilities to illuminate subtle characteristics and possible mitigations of diseases that have largely eluded effective treatment. Mark's research is therefore aligned with our joint institutional focus towards ushering in a new era of precision medicine. We have jointly developed a system called Precision Medicine Analytics Platform, and Mark's collaboration in involving the capabilities incorporated into this platform will bring much value to the researchers and the clinicians at Johns Hopkins. On a personal note, our APL staff say that Mark is just a pleasure to work with. He's fun, and a source of many creative ideas on the application of natural language processing to a wide spectrum of challenges that we certainly have at APL. Mark's unique in his ability to transcend organizational cultures, and we do have a few different ones around Hopkins, and to get through some inherent barriers to conduct great research with an eye towards a practical bent. And we're thrilled to be collaborating with Mark. So Mark, congratulations on your research achievements, and congratulations on your appointment. And we look forward to continued collaborations that are going to really draw some really exciting research results for us all. So thank you so much for that. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Joel Bader from the Department of Biomedical Engineering.
Thank you. It's just a real pleasure and thrill to be able to introduce Mark. So as has been said in a place where we've both been, that essentially a 10-minute introduction is good and a 5-minute introduction is excellent. So we'll aim for excellent. So thank you, Jerry Krill from APL and Greg Hager from Computer Science for putting together a position that keeps Mark here at Johns Hopkins. It's been great to have him here, and it's going to be even better for him to continue to be here. Thank you, John Malone, for continued investment in Johns Hopkins. And thank you, Provost Kumar and Dean Schlesinger, for your vision and growth in charting a path for Johns Hopkins and the Whiting School for the future. It's just been incredible to see the growth on this campus, the new space and the new resources, and it just makes it fabulous to be faculty here. So thank you so much. And Mark, most of all, thank you for your bravery in hearing me talk on previous occasions to ask me to introduce you today. So I want to say a little bit to start about Mark's research. So a very formative book for me when I was learning computer science way back was a book called Algorithms Plus Data Structures Equals Programs. And I think for Mark, on the technical side of his research, it's really algorithms plus features equals learning. So features, what is unique about what Mark does is that there are data sets now that are so big you can't even really think about storing them on your computer. So online learning, where the information just keeps growing and growing and growing, and Don Arking asked me today, well, does that mean he just needs terabytes? And it's more like, no, we generate terabytes each second. So it's methods to deal with just huge data sets from Twitter, from Facebook, search histories that you forget to clear from your computer, and then algorithms to deal with this data, or these data sets. And in addition, that the data sets are too big to store, what I really love about what Mark does is a lot of it is generative. And what that means is that when you look at words or text, you don't model it as a collection of letters and then have a probability distribution for letters. You really think in terms of higher order concepts like topics or entities that you try to learn, that you can constrain the models and make them better than if you were just thinking that what you're looking at is a jumble of characters. So I love that about Mark's work. The applications, the learning, what I find so impressive is that he's using this for good. So we heard from Jerry about some of the applications. I won't talk about that in detail. I'll say Mark does a great job in naming his papers. So individual decisions, the Charlie Sheen effect on rapid in-home human immunodeficiency virus test sales, 2017 Prevention Science. For public health, Pokemon Go, a new distraction for drivers and pedestrians, 2016 JAMA Internal Medicine. And I should say Mark is doing his part in that his recent car purchase for commuting has a lot of built-in driver safety features that are very, very helpful. And then the work that we heard about from Jerry, also combating automated bots. So programs that people write to really mess with us as we're reading social network, and troll armies, so people who are paid to spread misinformation. So weaponized health communications, Twitter bots, and Russian trolls amplify the vaccine debate, 2017 American Journal of Public Health. So I should also mention a bit about Mark's training. High school at the Ida Crown Academy in Chicago, then a double undergraduate degree in computer science and computer engineering from Northwestern, where I hear he had the highest GPA, which is the one part of Mark's history that I don't quite believe, because not that he's not...
It was just in computer science.
Not just in computer... Not that he's not a... But he just has so much energy and he does so many things. And then PhD at Penn, where he and Chava met. All right. So he's also done a number of corporate internships and sabbaticals, Microsoft, IBM, Google Research, most recently Bloomberg. So the top reasons why Mark does so many corporate internships. Number 3, his work is fundamentally broadly useful. So it's really great to see that an academic can have so much impact that the corporation wants to bring them in. Second, location. He chooses fabulous places. So to help Chava with her career, he recently relocated for a year or two to New York, where he internshiped at Bloomberg, in their fabulous building. The number one reason is the fleece sweaters with logos. So here's a picture of Mark with his Microsoft fleece. He also has a Google fleece. I'm not sure what he got from Bloomberg. He has dream sponsorships to come, though. So I heard that his favorite dress-up was Star Trek Next Generation. Darth Maul is popular with his daughter. Also NASA. I think his dream software sponsorship possibly would be Trilobyte Software, makers of Seventh Guest. And he's hoping at some point for a sponsorship from the city of Edinburgh. So these are the generations of Mark. So here are some family pictures. So the paternal line in Mark's family favors the letter M. Mitchell Dredze, his great-grandfather. Max Dredze, his great-great-grandfather. Here pictured with the Ben-Gurions and also with Mark's grandmother. Mark's father, Lionel, so the M skips a generation. And then Mark and Micah, so you can see the family similarity. So it's great to be able to welcome Ravanit Chava Evans. I think the first time I'm able to introduce you. So congratulations on your smicha. Micah, Gila, and Hadar. So we've been at many family events for them. There they are starting school, and I'm happy to say that Mark's household is a good Bayesian household. As opposed to a frequentist household. So Mark's siblings, I owe special thanks, and to Mark for being brave enough to share their email and phone numbers with me. Lizzie Dredze, MD, and Rabbi Josh Dredze. Rabbi Dr. Josh Dredze. You're a degree behind. Mark's formative years. So Mark Dredze's high school yearbook. If they try to rush me, I always say I've only got one other speed, and it's slower. So I have to say that I have not heard a single undergraduate say that about Mark's lecturing style. He's a funny person to be around, but can be a little crazy. He plays the oboe and guitar very well. He enjoys using his computer whenever possible and loves to watch Star Trek. There are certain words that he calls out for no apparent reason. Bingo, ole, and taxi. Very lovable person, which is good because there's a lot of him to love. He helps at the soup kitchen, so we'll see interest in food. Is part of the to be a leader, be a reader. He's a good friend because he can always make you laugh, which is certainly true. Strong sense of self-esteem, the ability to bring out the good side of any situation. Because of this, he is liked by everyone, except the more loved. Treasured. So, and then here he is with his friend from high school, Yoni Ray, who's now at Regeneron. Mark and a goat. So I don't know whether being in Chicago, Mark just had an affinity for meat, or whether he was a member of 4-H. But I thought I'd show you a little bit about Mark's diet. And he has something to look forward to with the catering after. Fish heads, Seder bones. You can't really see the label on the top right, but Romanian meat. He's gotten into crossover foods. So the bottom two, the pastrami kugel and the deli sushi. And finally, working with Yoni at Regeneron, I assume genetic engineered food. So we have the chicken brisket and the kosher ham flavor. So finally, here's Mark.
I got to talk about Joel for 10 minutes now. So thank you. I've clearly got to clear out my Facebook account, which you think I know about in my line of work. So thank you very much for coming across the street, across campus, from Laurel, and I don't even know where you're coming from, Joel. That building, Joel's everywhere. So really thank you everyone for being here. Well, I want to do something a little bit different. So I was told to talk about my work, and so I'm not going to do that. Because I write a lot of papers, you can go read the papers, I don't have to tell you what they're about. Instead, I wanted to just take this opportunity to reflect on some of the things I really love about Johns Hopkins and share them with you now. So this is the talk, why I love Johns Hopkins, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I love, and maybe you'll learn a little bit about my work along the way. I came to Hopkins in February 2009 as part of the Human Language Technology Center of Excellence. Sanjeev is wearing the COE shirt. I was one of the very first hires of the COE. In a couple months, I will be the oldest person at Hopkins that was brought in through COE. I'm waiting for a couple people to retire to make me, so I can get the trophy. I'll just say, I've really been incredibly proud of how the COE has grown over the years, and I like to think I had something to do with bringing people in, just seeing it grow, and I'm really very proud of what the center is doing. And so while my primary appointment was at the COE, computer science really welcomed me from the start. So David Urowski sent me this email that told me that I was going to be appointed as an assistant research professor in computer science, and I printed this out, I hung it on the wall next to my desk, and it was there for at least a year until I moved. And the CS department, I wasn't really sure how I would be treated. I was at the COE, I was also in CS, and they were just so incredibly welcoming. Scott Smith, who was the chair then, and then Greg, who took over shortly after that, really welcomed me with open arms. And when I came, I really wouldn't know what it meant to be in a center, what was a center, why isn't that not an institute, are we an institute, how do departments work? And so there was a lot of just navigating Hopkins that I had to figure out. And I think that process really led me to the very first thing I learned about Hopkins, which I really loved, which is that no one says no. And if they do say no, you should just ask someone else. And there's a concept that I think, if some of you have been at other universities and compare, of staying in your lane, of here's what you should be doing, and this is not what you should be doing. And honestly, no one told me that, and no one said that here at Hopkins. The message I've always received is, if you have a great idea, do it. And it's important that you do the great things and you do the great work. And if something is meaningful and something is amazing, it's more important that you do that thing than specifically what it is that you're supposed to do. I really see this all over the university. I see this talking to colleagues at other universities where they really have a different message. And I think it's something that at Hopkins, a lot of us really see here of how much we are encouraged to do just great work and not worry about what we're supposed to be doing. So this does lead to some chaos, as the administration no doubt appreciates. So my favorite story of this is I gave an interview at WYPR on one of the live shows about some of the work I was doing, and afterwards I got an email from someone who said, hey, your work is really relevant to health and medicine, you should come over to the medical campus and give a talk. And I was like, I did a couple months ago. And the point is, they had never heard of it, and the joke was I had to go on the radio and talk about my work before I could find the right people in the university, because the right people in the university aren't necessarily where you think they would be. They're kind of all over the place. And so while it does give a little bit of chaos, it does mean that the administration here is focused on what can they do to make people succeed, and not, well, you're here and you're supposed to be doing this, and stay in your lane. So I really love that about Hopkins. One of the things that I learned very early on was you should always look for where the smart people are and go work with the smart people. And while they're everywhere at Hopkins, they are in abundance over at the medical campus. And so very early on, I became interested in working more on health and medicine. It was something I had no experience with when I got to Hopkins, but it was something I wanted to learn more about. This coincided with Greg Hager's chairmanship of the CS department and trying to create more bridges to the medical campus. He organized things like speed dating events where we can meet people who could collaborate with us. And that was really the first time I started to really interact with people outside of computer science and learn what it meant to be a computer scientist working with other people who are domain experts who had a lot to offer and how we could work together. And that really led me to the second thing I love about Hopkins, which is Johns Hopkins really takes interdisciplinary work seriously. Every school I've ever visited has told me they believe in interdisciplinary work. I've never been somewhere where they're like, we don't think CS has anything to offer any other discipline. We think computer engineers should sit in their offices and not talk to, everyone believes in interdisciplinary work. So I always ask a follow-up question, which is, what do you do as a university to encourage and incentivize interdisciplinary work? You can't just tell people, oh yeah, we believe in interdisciplinary work, but by the way, when you come for tenure, like we want to know that you're really a blah, 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 right? And like the interdisciplinary work is like a nice side thing. And so Hopkins is a school that doesn't have that attitude. They really take it seriously, this idea of interdisciplinary work. And so what I've noticed at Hopkins is these structures that are put in place to really encourage it. So I think we all see this in the centers. These are some of the centers in the engineering school. And when I first got to Hopkins, it took me a while to figure out. But really, they're formal vehicles that make it so easy to collaborate, right? If you want to work with people across departments, right, you can bring people together in a center, and the university provides the structure and the support to make that really easy to do. I have really benefited from this tremendously, and that I've worked with a lot of great centers, starting at the Human Language Technology Center of Excellence, then the Center for Language and Speech Processing, which brings people together from CS, ECE, AMS, cognitive science. But I've really had the opportunity to collaborate with people all over the university, whether it's CFIT or ICTR or IGTC. Certainly now in the Malone Center has been a tremendous privilege, and certainly at APL, which I'll get to in more detail. Another example that I give a lot of people about Hopkins and building the structures for interdisciplinary work is the Bloomberg professorships. And I think this is really interesting. So Mike Bloomberg came to us about over 5 years ago, maybe 6 years. And he had $250 million he wanted to spend, which we're always happy to accommodate. And he wanted to increase interdisciplinary work. And very simply, I'm just quoting from the press release at the time, the goal is to make it as easy for faculty, staff, and students to work across disciplines as within them. And so you can pay lip service to that and say like, oh, well, we believe that should be possible. Or you can do what Hopkins has done, which is really think hard about how you make that happen. And the idea that was put forward was we should jointly appoint people across schools. And I think people who know how universities work here jointly appoint in departments and think, okay, we're happy to do that. But once you start talking about jointly appointing people across schools, that's just not easy to do, right? From an administrative point, it's not easy to do. But we figured it out because we believe that having people really between schools in that way would make a difference. And we said, you know what? we think this is necessary for encouraging interdisciplinary work, and so we figured out how to do it. And 5 or 6 years later, we have over 35 BDPs now and growing, and these people are transforming the university in really significant ways. Right? And the whole idea, the whole structure of this is something that I think is really uniquely Hopkins, that we're interested in really what can we do to make interdisciplinary work first-class work and make it easy to do. And this is just another example of how we can make that happen. This also brings me my next point of something I really love about Johns Hopkins, which is the amazing people here. And I've tried hard to take advantage of this. Just the number of faculty here, the number of excellent students and postdoc and staff, it's really amazing. The staff in computer science, CLSP, Malone, COE, they have just been so supportive of me and generous with their time, allowed me to do the things I do. And I really tried to take advantage of the amazing talent here. So I made this. Since I got to Hopkins, I've co-authored papers with 273 people. I don't know if that's normal or not. I have to admit there are some CLSP workshop papers that bump that number up quite a bit. But here's scaled by number of publications. So maybe some of you see your name, and the single-authored people, it's a little hard to read. But I just really have felt like to take seriously the idea that there's a tremendous amount of talent here. And the papers that Joel said that had awesome names, I didn't name any of those. They're all co-authors who named, different co-authors for each one. And so like I just benefit by working with these amazing people. And so I really take this seriously. The other thing I take seriously, I think, is this idea of one university. And I have really tried to find people across the university that I could work with. I'm really interested in new things, and one of the great things about being a university is being able to collaborate broadly and learn new things. If I had a paper on environmental pollution, which I know nothing about, and I was able to call an expert in that thing because we have an entire department in that area in the Bloomberg School, and they were very generous with their time. And that has been really tremendous. So here are some of the schools that I have either worked with or collaborated with in some way. There's a couple missing from here. I haven't gotten to Peabody yet, which I'd like to get to at some point, but I've really tried to just find amazing talent here at the university, and every one of these places I've been really impressed. I specifically want to talk about APL, which is where I've spent a lot of my time over the past year and a half. And I actually talk a lot about APL when I'm trying to recruit faculty candidates, because I think it's something that Hopkins has that just, like no one else has this. So we have thousands of people half an hour south of us working in every possible area that you could be interested in if you're in engineering. And if you want to have an impact, if you want to actually make a difference, right, there are groups there who are actually working to deploy technologies to solve problems that matter. And it's just a tremendous privilege to be there, to interact with those people. And if you're interested in a diversity of talent and diversity of purpose and really making an impact, it's such an advantage Hopkins has. And it's really been amazing to be there, and I look forward to continuing my work there. So the last thing I want to talk about that I love about Hopkins, this might be a little strange to say, but we are not number one. Not clear what I'm measuring here. We're not the number one university. We're not the number one school of engineering. We're not the number one computer science department. If you look at where we are in computer science, by faculty size, we're over there. And you know what? We're never going to have 100 faculty in computer science. And I'm sorry if I'm spoiling plans by saying that, but like that's just the reality. And so what I think that does is it makes us think a lot harder about what we want to do. We can't say our goal in computer science is to hire one person in every area and they're going to be the top people and we're going to have the most papers every conference. We can't do that. All right? And so we have to think hard about what it is that we want to do. And so something I heard, and this is attributed to one of the former provosts, and I don't remember who, so I didn't put it up there, is this idea of selective excellence. And this is an idea in higher education that goes back quite a while. But the idea of selective excellence, and I really think this is embodied at Hopkins, is whatever you do, whatever it is that you want to be excellent in, do it well, do it because it matters, and be the best at that. And I think that really is true of Hopkins. We're not going to do everything, but we're going to pick what it is that we want to do. We're going to pick what we think it matters most. We're going to pick what it is that we think we can make a contribution where other people can't. And that thing we're going to do exceedingly well. And so I'm at a place with some of the best people doing some of the most amazing things. And we also take very seriously what we do and what we choose to do and what we choose not to do. So for all of these reasons, these 4 reasons what I really love about Hopkins, I think it's really been a privilege to be part of the Malone Center, because I think the Malone Center actually brings together a lot of what I really love about Hopkins, these 4 things. It's filled with people who do not stay in their lanes. By definition of the Malone Center, the point is to go outside your field, to do things that have impact, to find opportunities in the university in health and medicine where you can make an impact. Interdisciplinary work is at the very core. The people who are part of the Malone Center, we are brought here because we're interdisciplinary both across engineering, and I like how there's people across all the engineering departments that are part of the center, but also in the sorts of applications that we have across the university. The people in the center are really amazing, and that's been a tremendous privilege. And I know we're not done hiring yet, and so I look forward to see who comes in next. But working with these people and being part of this group has been a tremendous honor the past year and a half, and I'm really thrilled to be receiving this chair so that I continue this work. And then the last, selective excellence. This is something that we think a lot about in the Malone Center. We're not going to solve every problem in healthcare. That's just not going to happen, at least not for a couple years. And so what we choose to work on, we think hard about because we pick it because it matters, it will have a big impact, and it's something we think we are uniquely positioned to deliver in. And so that's why I think it's been a tremendous honor to be part of the Malone Center. I haven't met Dr. Malone, but I think he really understands this about the university. So the whole idea of the Malone Center, I think, is something that is hard to imagine a lot of other universities. The idea you would bring engineers together around a transformational application is just not something that fits really well in universities with rigid structures. And I think it's a really unique thing about Hopkins that a center here can even exist. And so I think the idea that Dr. Malone funds this center and funds these positions really shows me that he understands some of these unique aspects of Hopkins that I really love. So I'm kind of amazed that I'm here today. This is my 3,558th day at Hopkins. It's easy to keep track. I started on February 1st, 2009. I started here as an assistant research professor. This is the title slide from my job talk. I don't know, some of you, I'm looking around. I know Jason was at my job talk. You were at my job talk. Okay, a couple of you were at my job talk. I've just, I'll tell you, and a lot of you know this, my plan was to be at Hopkins for 2 or 3 years. That plan failed. I am still here, and I'm kind of amazed that I'm now standing here today receiving this chair. I really didn't think that I would end up being here. If you look at just how my work has evolved, these are some of my recent papers, weaponized health communication, which you mentioned, this work on child labor policies, which I'm really proud of, work on causal inference, work on substance abuse in college campuses. These are just things that I never would have thought I would be doing had I started with that job talk. And I think it's pretty clear that I did these things as I was at Hopkins. This was not something I was going to do had I gone anywhere else. So that impact on me that Hopkins has had is really tremendous. I've also done things I just never would have imagined I would have done. I was on a South by Southwest panel. TMZ confronted Charlie Sheen at a gas station to ask about my research. You can watch the video if you want. He also tweeted out my work, which is like the most attention I'm going to get. I wrote a book with a former student, Michael Paul. I was featured in Baltimore Style, which is, again, not, if you saw my high school picture, that's not a magazine I thought I would end up in. I was recently top story of The Guardian, and I was the lead quote in that. I was part of the NSF panel that responded to Sandy Hook, which was a tremendous honor at the time. I was on the cover of Johns Hopkins Engineering Magazine. These are things that I never thought I would do, and I kind of am amazed that I am here and these things are happening, and it's just been kind of a whirlwind experience. So there's really way too many people to thank. As I said, I have 200 some odd co-authors. I do want to call out my PhD students. I have to say, of all the things I do in academia, this is the thing I am most proud of, because these students, both current and former, are doing more than I ever could to impact the fields they're in, whether it's teaching, academic research, industry. It really is amazing. And I've just been really lucky to be able to work with these people. I do want to thank a couple people in particular. I really want to thank Greg Hager. So if you listen to my story of computer science, you heard Greg welcome me into computer science. You heard Greg really lead the effort at working with the medical school, which I was part of. And you heard, and you will hear, that Greg is the director of the Malone Center. And so I really feel like Greg has been there every step of the way of this really long and complex and winding journey, and I really appreciate all that you have done to enable me to have the success I've had today. I want to thank my family, of course. So my wife, who is here today, it's really foolish of me to try and list all the things that you've done for me, so I'll just pick one. I really have to say, you really inspire me with your dedication and your passion for what you do, and part of the reason I work so hard is I'm just trying to keep up with you. And I am not succeeding. I also want to thank my daughter, Gila, who came today. So Gila's in 2nd grade, and she has a project where she gets assigned a person to learn about, and she is learning about Rachel Carson. And she learned that Rachel Carson, who wrote Silent Spring, which many of you probably have read, was a Johns Hopkins graduate. And so her primary interest in coming today was to learn more about Johns Hopkins. And that was the motivation for why she wanted to come. And so I hope you've learned something about Hopkins. I also have to say that I am proud of nothing more than being your father and working with you and seeing you grow and teaching you what I can. I also want to thank my other 2 kids, Hadar and Mika, who are not here, and I think we all can agree that is a very good thing. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate everyone for coming today. I sit down, right? Okay, you can have this if you want.
All right, well, first let me say thanks, Mark, for an amazing talk. More and more in life, I guess I get to a point where I have to give talks of different types in different venues about different things. And I think I've been taking notes as you do this talk. I think it was just a super talk, classy. Gave, I think, everybody a sense both of you and the work that you've done as well as how it fits into Hopkins. So just a wonderful job. I just want to applaud you again for that amazing job. So I'm here to back clean up today after a provost and a dean and an amazing talk. And in many ways, I think my job is to simply kind of reflect a little bit on Mark and his contributions, and also, as Provost Kumar said, to also say, well, okay, we put a chit on him. What are our expectations for the future? So to play a little bit, I guess, on the guilt as well. First, I want to say that I've known Mark for, I guess, nearly a decade now. You did me a favor by putting the dates up there, so I didn't have to go back and look myself. And I'll say I was department chair during much of his tenure at Hopkins, and he thinks of it as it was, I did many things for him, and I think of all the things that he did for us. When I was department chair, he was a research professor. His job is really to run his research program, grow his group. Plus, he was working at the Human Language Technology Center of Excellence for something like 80% of his time. Nonetheless, he served on committees. He served on the diversity committee. He led the diversity committee, in fact, for many years. He had his graduate students. He was doing research in the department. He would come to faculty meetings. He was teaching courses. For all practical purposes, he was doing pretty much everything the quote-unquote full-time faculty were doing, and he was doing it on 20% of his time. So, of course, when I became director of the Malone Center, the first thing I thought about is, what's it going to be like when I get Mark for 100% of his time, and I get 5 times out of him what he was doing as a faculty member then. But as you can see, really he has, in many ways, fulfilled this promise, or you have fulfilled this promise. Just kind of thinking a bit more about your role in the Malone Center, as I was preparing these remarks, I kind of try to find a little bit of a hook to think about and to reflect on. And one of the things that I had a chance to do last week is I was down at the National Academies and I gave a talk on AI for aging. And it was a fun talk to give because it's not a topic that's been particularly heavily explored, and it was a very receptive room thinking about what could we do using AI for older adults. But as I went through the day, I realized how much our thinking today is still constrained by the artifacts of the past. So when people think about older adults, they think about the older adults today, and they think about, well, what can we invent for them? When in fact, much of the research that we're doing is not about today, it's about tomorrow. And I think that Mark's work, particularly in the public health domain, and particularly using social media, really is a reflection of somebody who is actually looking at what's going on today and saying, here are incredible new opportunities that are popping up. But if we just think about them the way we're thinking about today, you'd be building the next Facebook or the next Twitter. You'd be building platforms that allow people to interact, but you wouldn't actually be really taking advantage of what those possibilities are. And so I give Mark complete credit when back in 2011, he was one of the first people in the world to say, we have all this social media data. I've got a set of tools that a lot of people don't have. Let me apply those 2 tools to this social media data and actually create something new that really people hadn't thought about before. Really kind of thinking about inventing the future instead of thinking about what's going on today and what can we do immediately today that takes advantage of that. The other thing I wanted to highlight about Mark, and I don't think you brought this out in your talk, but it's easy to, or not easy, but it's work will have impact if you take what you're doing and you can find a real-world problem to apply it to. And so I think you're using Twitter data for public health, or using the recent paper on weaponized health communication, Twitter bots and Russian trolls to amplify the vaccine debate. It highlights the opportunity for this sort of work to have impact. But I just wanted to point out that while Mark is publishing papers with titles like that, things that are getting press interest and they're having an impact in the world, he's writing papers like the challenges of using text classifiers for causal inference, or deep Dirichlet multinomial regression. I, by the way, have a hard time with that word, but But my point being that he's not just saying, here's techniques that are out there, let me apply them, but he's also saying, given that I see these problems that are out there, how do I take those problems and start to drive fundamental research? Because it's the fundamental research that really is going to be what sets the stage for tomorrow. And so people have talked about Mark's ability to bridge the applied physics lab with the Homewood campus and to bridge different areas. I think Mark has also exemplified somebody who really has been able to bridge fundamental science with the applications of those science in ways that have huge impact. And so again, I think we talk about your promise for the future. I think in my mind, that's one of the promises I see for the future, is just your ability to repeatably take these fundamental ideas and find new ways to apply them in the real world. So let me just close by saying, Mark's an incredible guy. He really does get stuff done. There's no way you can have that many collaborators and that many papers and that many areas if you don't get stuff done. But what we really want, or what we need in the Malone Center, are to build teams of people like Mark who get stuff done. And if I think of Mark in the constellation of some of the other faculty in the Malone Center that he highlighted, I think we really are in a world where we've got really the dream team together, where we can now actually get real stuff done in healthcare by applying fundamental engineering science, but in new ways and in new syntheses to actually get new applications that are going to have high impact in the world. So Mark, let me just come to a close by saying, it's been really wonderful to get to know you over the last 10 years. I admire the work that you've done. I went back and looked at your Google Scholar page and marvel again at the diversity and the wealth of work that you've done. But mostly reflecting again on Provost Kumar's remarks, I really look forward to the next 10 years and all the things that we're going to invent together, particularly with the team we're putting together into the Malone Center. So with that, let me welcome you to the Malone family and congratulate you, I guess, as the final person on your Malone chair at Johns Hopkins University.
Congratulations. That ends the formal part of our